Why I had to call the police on a customer. This is a situation no shop owner or mobile mechanic ever wants to find themselves in, but it is a reality of the business that we have to talk about today. You are going to learn exactly how a routine brake job turned into a legal standoff and what you need to look out for to protect your own property and safety. This is the F-Car Habits Podcast. This episode is designed for you to listen to while you drive, work, take care of your day, or relax. Enjoy it however fits your life. I have been in the automotive industry for a long time, from the high-pressure environment of dealership service bays to the grit of running my own mobile repair operation. I thought I had seen it all: the scams, the shade tree disasters, the customers who try to bring their own eBay parts and then blame you when they fail. But nothing prepared me for the day I had to actually dial 911 while standing in a customer's driveway. It started out as a simple request for a brake pad and rotor replacement on a late-model European SUV. The customer seemed normal enough over the phone, asking about mechanical reliability and long-term performance. We agreed on a price for a premium maintenance strategy using high-quality ceramic pads. When I pulled up to the house, I noticed the vehicle was in rougher shape than described. It had that look of a car that had been neglected for a while. I mean, you can just tell when a powertrain analysis is going to reveal more than just surface wear. I got to work, but as soon as I pulled the wheels off, I saw the issue. The calipers were seized, and the brake lines were cracked. This wasn't just a pad slap anymore. This was a major vehicle safety consideration. I stopped and called the customer out to explain the situation. I told him, "Look, I can't just put new pads on this. It's a liability, and more importantly, it's dangerous." He looked at me, crossed his arms, and said, "Just do what I paid you for." Now, in this business, you learn that some people just don't want to hear the truth about their cars. They see a mechanic as a hurdle rather than a help. I tried to explain the technical automotive knowledge behind why a seized caliper would ruin his new rotors in a matter of miles. I even offered a data-driven recommendation on how we could source the parts affordably. He wasn't having it. He started getting loud, accusing me of trying to upsell him. It's funny how people use that word when you're literally trying to save their lives. The tension started to rise. I decided right then that I wasn't going to touch the car further if he wouldn't let me do it right. I told him I'd pack up my tools and only charge for the diagnostic fee. That's when things took a turn for the worse. He stepped between me and my truck. "You aren't leaving until my car is back together," he growled. Now hold on. I had his wheels off and the car on jack stands. I couldn't just put it back together with broken parts. It was a stalemate. I've dealt with angry customers at the dealership before, usually over financing or trade-in values, but this was different. This was personal and physical. I realized I was dealing with someone who wasn't thinking rationally. It's a reminder that even with years of shop experience, you can still find yourself in a driveway repair that goes south in seconds. Let me tell you about another time I saw a similar red flag. I was doing a vehicle inspection for a guy buying a used truck at an auction. The seller was acting just like this customer, aggressive and defensive. Whenever I tried to perform an engine performance evaluation, he'd step in the way. It's a classic sign of a scam or a hidden disaster. Back in the driveway, I tried to stay calm. I said, "Sir, I need to get to my tools." He refused to move. At that point, my ownership cost analysis of the situation told me that my safety was worth more than any repair job. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. "Really?" He actually laughed when I told him I'd call the authorities. He thought I was bluffing, but when you're a mobile mechanic, your truck is your office and your livelihood. If someone prevents you from leaving, that's a serious legal issue. I dialed the number. While the operator was on the line, I could see the realization hitting him. The bravado started to fade, replaced by a frantic kind of energy. This is the reality of the behind-the-scenes work that people don't see on the glossy YouTube tutorials. It's not always about the perfect turn of a wrench. Sometimes it's about conflict resolution and knowing when to walk away. Wait, Before we get into what happened when the sirens appeared, we need to talk about why this happens so often in the subprime and prime lending world. People are stretched thin. They buy cars they can barely afford the payments on, leaving zero room for maintenance. When a $1,000 repair comes up, they snap. I've seen it at the repo lots and I've seen it in the luxury suburbs. It doesn't matter what you drive. If you don't respect the machine and the bill will eventually catch up to you. The police arrived about 10 minutes later, and let me tell you, those were the longest 10 minutes of my professional life. The customer was pacing back and forth, muttering about how I was a scammer. Ugh, it's the same old story. When the officers pulled up, they saw a car on stands and a very stressed-out mechanic. They had to separate us immediately. One officer took the customer aside while the other came to talk to me. I explained the situation from a technical automotive knowledge perspective. I showed him the seized calipers and the cracked lines. I explained that as a professional, I have a duty of care. I can't knowingly release a vehicle that is a rolling death trap. The officer was actually pretty cool. He told me he'd seen this kind of thing before with contractors, but rarely with mechanics. I told him, "Officer, this is a vehicle safety consideration. If he drives this and the brakes fail, it's on me." While we were talking, the customer was over there screaming that I had stolen his wheels. Yeah, okay. They were sitting right next to the car. It was clear he was trying to create a narrative where he was the victim. This is why I always tell people, document everything. I had my initial inspection notes and the photos I took the second the wheels came off. This reminds me of a story from my dealership days. We had a guy come in for a powertrain analysis on a high-end sports car. He had clearly been racing it, but he wanted it covered under warranty. When we denied the claim based on the data-driven recommendations from the manufacturer, he threatened to call the police on us. He claimed we were holding his car hostage because he didn't want to pay the teardown fee. It's a common tactic used by people who feel entitled to free labor or who are trying to hide their own mistakes. In the driveway, the police eventually told the customer that he had to let me pack up my tools and leave. But here was the catch. The car was still on my jack stands. I told the officer, "I'm happy to leave, but I need my stands back. That means the car has to go back on the ground." The customer started yelling again, saying I couldn't touch his car. So we were back at square one. The police had to explain to him that if he didn't let me lower the car, he was technically interfering with my business property. It was a mess. Eventually, with the police watching every move, I lowered the SUV back onto its rotors, which I hated doing, but I had no choice. I packed my truck as fast as I could. Now let me tell you about this truck I worked on a few months later. It was a similar vibe. The owner was a DIY expert who had tried to do his own engine performance evaluation and ended up frying the ECU. When I showed up to fix it, he was already on edge. He kept hovering over me, questioning every move. I realized then that some customers aren't looking for a mechanic. They're looking for a scapegoat. If the repair doesn't go perfectly, or if it costs more than they Googled, they lash out. It's a major part of the ownership cost analysis that most people ignore. The cost of dealing with the wrong professionals or being the wrong kind of customer. I finally got my truck loaded and started to pull away. The customer was still standing there, filming me with his phone, shouting that he was going to ruin my reputation. No, for real. He actually thought that being the aggressor in a police-monitored situation was going to look good for him. But here's the thing about the automotive world, word travels fast. I called a few other mobile guys in the area to warn them about the address. We have to look out for each other. Whether it's avoiding scams or just knowing which neighborhoods are a headache, communication is key to long-term vehicle reliability in this business. Looking back, I realize I made a mistake by not vetting the customer better. I should have seen the signs during the initial phone call. He was overly focused on the price and kept asking if I could just make it work for cheap. In the future, whenever I hear those words, I'm out. It's not worth the high-value automotive insight if the person receiving it doesn't value the work. I've spent years building my technical automotive knowledge, and I'm not going to risk it for a customer who doesn't respect the process. Next, a quick story about a sedan with the same issue. I had a lady call me for a squeak. When I got there, the brake pads were literally gone. It was metal on metal. She was calm, listened to the explanation, and thanked me for catching it before it became a disaster. That's the difference. One customer sees you as a partner in vehicle safety, and the other sees you as an enemy. You have to be able to spot the difference before you ever put a jack under the frame. It's a lesson I learned the hard way, but it's one that has saved me countless headaches since that day in the driveway. Now, let's dive deeper into the why behind these blow-ups. A lot of it comes down to the way cars are sold and financed today. We are living in a world of subprime lending, where people are pushed into vehicles they can't actually maintain. When I was working at the dealership, I saw people signing for 72-month loans on used cars with 100,000 miles. That is a recipe for disaster. By the time the car needs a major repair, like a transmission or a full brake system overhaul, the owner is already underwater on the loan. They have no equity and no savings. When that person calls a mobile mechanic, they are already in a state of high stress. They aren't just worried about the car, they're worried about how they're going to get to work or feed their kids. I get it. I really do. But that doesn't give anyone the right to threaten a professional. This is where maintenance strategy becomes so important. If you're listening to this and you're struggling with car costs, the best thing you can do is be honest with your mechanic. We can often find ways to prioritize repairs. Maybe we do the front brakes this month and the rears next month. But when you start the interaction with aggression, you close the door to those options. I remember a customer who came into the shop with a car that had been repossessed and then bought back at an auction. The car was a total nightmare. It had been repaired with zip ties and duct tape. The owner was trying to get a vehicle safety consideration certificate so he could drive for a rideshare app. I had to tell him the truth. The car was a total loss from a mechanical reliability standpoint. He didn't call the police, but he did break down in tears. It was a heavy moment. It reminded me that behind every bad customer story, there's often a person who is just one car breakdown away from losing everything. That's why I'm so passionate about premium automotive education. I want people to understand what they're buying before they sign those papers. Don't just look at the monthly payment. Look at the long-term performance and the common problems associated with that specific model. Do your research on engine performance evaluation and powertrain analysis. If a car is known for blowing head gaskets at 80,000 miles and you're buying it at 75,000, you need to have a plan. Otherwise, you're going to end up like that guy in the driveway, taking your frustration out on the person trying to help you. This also happens with some SUVs that are popular in the used market. People see a luxury badge and think they're getting a deal, but they don't realize that a $50,000 car still has $50,000 repair costs, even if you bought it for 10 grand. I've seen people buy used German SUVs and then get shocked when a simple oil change and inspection costs 3 times what it would for a domestic sedan. That's where the scam accusations usually start. How can it be that much? Well, it's because the parts are specialized and the labor requires advanced automotive diagnostics. Let me think. There was another time I was doing a mobile job on a classic car. The owner was a collector, very wealthy, but he was the cheapest guy I've ever met. He wanted me to use used parts from a junkyard on a vintage engine. I told him, "Sir, that's not how you maintain long-term vehicle reliability." He argued with me for an hour. Eventually, I just had to walk away. You have to know your worth and the value of your technical automotive knowledge. If a customer doesn't want to do it right, they aren't your customer. It took me a long time to realize that no is a complete sentence in this business. Geez. The amount of times I've seen people get scammed by parking lot mechanics is heartbreaking. These guys pull up, offer to fix a dent or a leak for $50, and then disappear after making the problem 10 times worse. Then, the owner calls a professional like me to fix the mess. When I give them the real price for a proper repair, they get angry at me. It's a classic case of shooting the messenger. You have to understand that quality work costs money because it requires tools, insurance, and years of experience. Next, a quick story about a sedan that had been through 3 different shops. Each shop had just cleared the codes without actually performing a powertrain analysis. The owner was convinced the car was cursed. When I finally sat down and did a proper diagnostic, I found a simple frayed wire. It wasn't a curse, it was just lazy mechanics. But because the owner had been burned so many times, he was incredibly defensive when I first showed up. I had to earn his trust. That's the high-value automotive insight I try to bring to every job. It's about more than just fixing the car. It's about fixing the relationship between the owner and the machine. As we wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with some practical advice to avoid the kind of nightmare I faced. First and foremost, if you're a mechanic, trust your gut. If a customer seems off or overly aggressive during the first 5 minutes, don't take the job. No amount of money is worth a police report or a threat to your safety. For the car owners out there, remember that your mechanic is a highly trained professional. Treat them with the same respect you'd give a doctor or a lawyer. We are the ones keeping your family safe on the road through vehicle safety considerations and mechanical reliability checks. If you're looking to buy a car, especially in this crazy market, please get a pre-purchase inspection. I can't tell you how many customer stories I have that start with, "I just bought this car yesterday and now it won't start." A professional engine performance evaluation and powertrain analysis can save you thousands of dollars and a lot of heartache. Don't trust the certified sticker at a shady used car lot. Bring in your own expert who has the technical automotive knowledge to see past a fresh coat of wax and a cleaned engine bay. I've seen the best and worst of this industry, from the high-value automotive insight of master techs to the blatant scams of curbstoners selling salvaged titles as clean. It's a jungle out there, but it doesn't have to be. By focusing on maintenance strategy and long-term vehicle reliability, you can make your car last much longer than the average owner. And for the love of all things mechanical, don't wait until your brakes are screaming to call someone. Preventive maintenance is always cheaper than emergency repairs. Wow! I just realized how much we've covered today, from police standoffs in driveways to the intricacies of subprime lending. It all ties back to one thing: the F-car habits philosophy. We want to break the cycle of bad decisions that lead to car trouble and financial stress. Whether you're a mobile mechanic just starting out or a driver looking to better understand your vehicle, I hope this episode gave you some valuable perspective. This business is about people as much as it is about machines. I remember my first year as a mobile mechanic. I was so eager to please everyone that I took every job that came my way. I worked in rain, snow, and in some really sketchy neighborhoods. I learned the hard way that you have to set boundaries. That's what the wise part of experience is, knowing which battles to fight. Today, I'm much more selective, and my business is better for it. My ownership cost analysis for my own life has improved because I'm not wasting energy on vampire customers who suck the life out of your day. Now let me tell you about this truck one last time. It was a beat-up work vehicle, and the owner was a guy who worked 70 hours a week. He didn't have much, but he took care of his tools and his truck. When I finished the repair, he didn't just pay me, he thanked me for helping him keep his livelihood going. That's why I do this. For every call the police moment, there are 100 moments of genuine connection and service. That's the premium automotive education that really matters, the human element. So, next time you're sitting in your car, listen to the sounds it's making. Is it a happy hum or a worried rattle? Don't ignore it. And if you do have to call a mechanic, remember the story of the guy in the driveway. Be the customer who listens, who asks questions, and who values the expertise being brought to your home. We're all just trying to get from point A to point B safely. Let's make the journey a little smoother for everyone involved. Thank you for tuning in to the F-Car Habits podcast. It's been a pleasure sharing these stories with you. I left a link in the description that will take you to Amazon Automobile Weekly Deals. Take a look. You might find something you like. Remember to stay safe, stay informed, and keep those wheels turning. This episode was for you to enjoy while you live your life, and I hope it added some value to your day. I'll see you in the next one, where we might just talk about the craziest things I've ever found inside cars. You won't want to miss that one. Until then, take care of your car, and it'll take care of you.